It's Michael Popok, Legal AF, with a Rudy Giuliani trial update. He goes to trial in December in the Ruby Freeman Shaye Moss defamation case, just on how big of a check the jury is going to award those two election workers from Fulton County, Georgia, for being attacked and defamed by Rudy Giuliani, because a judge in August already ruled as a matter of law and on a default judgment that he lost on liability, that he did the bad things against them that they claimed he did. What's the newest information on this trial? His new lawyer, Joe Sibley, has just filed a motion to tell the court, we don't need a jury trial. We're happy with a bench trial and just have you, judge, make the decision on how big a check my client's going to write. Let me unpack that for a minute. Beryl Howell, who used to be the chief judge of the D.C. court and is now one of the judges of the D.C. court, has so loathed, based on his conduct in the courtroom, Rudy Giuliani, that she threw the book at him in a way that I've never seen in my experience, long history of being a lawyer. Threw the book at him, not only found him in default, meaning you can't be heard to defend against the liability case. You did the defamation. You did the bad things against Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, accusing them of election fraud when they didn't commit any. These are the same two people, by the way, at the center as victims of the election interference Georgia Fulton County prosecution that's likely to go to trial against this same Rudy Giuliani in the summer of 2024. Same two people, same two women. He stepped in the bucket so many times with Judge Beryl Howell that she threw the book at him, default judgment as a sanction, and sanctioned him subsequently a couple of weeks later, and found that because he had not properly participated in what we call the discovery process, meaning turning over all the information and documents and financial statements about his podcast, about any way he makes money from different revenue streams and ad streams from his lobbyists, because how big of a amount of money he earns or has is important to a jury trying to determine punitive damages. They have to know how big is his nest egg and how big of a dent to put in it, right? A $1 million punitive damage amount to a person that's worth $1 billion is nothing. You got to make that number higher. So that is information that he needed to have provided when he didn't, and he failed to provide it, and he failed to pay the sanctions that she awarded in favor of Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, their lawyers, hundreds of thousands of dollars that Giuliani didn't pay. She said, enough is enough. I'm going to give an instruction also to the jury, and the instruction is you are to conclude that Rudy Giuliani to suppress and lower his net worth. This sounds familiar. Sounds like Donald Trump. That he purposely did not provide documents that he was required. So you are to make a negative inference, jury. You are to conclude that he was trying to hide information from you to do your job to set punitive damages. Terrible set of rulings for Rudy Giuliani. So who does Rudy Giuliani want now to make the ultimate decision about the amount of damages? The same judge. He'd rather have this judge who he knows, talk about the devil you know, who he knows is going to throw the book at him, who's going to write a very large check, than have 12 DC jurors who are not going to, newsflash, are not going to like Rudy Giuliani, right? Are going to more empathize and sympathize with Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, who are going to be very authentic and compelling victims when they testify. He'd rather take his chances with this judge than put it in the hands of the jury. This is a page out of the Jan 6th defendant playbook, because they feared that a jury listening to their participation, watching these videos, the Capitol footage that Mike Johnson just released, watching all of that, hearing about their body armor, body cameras, paramilitary training, comments made on social media to assassinate and attack elected officials, that may not go over well with the DC jury. And they'd rather have a judge who they hope would be a little bit more impartial, a little more independent, a little less biased to make the ruling. Same thing here with Giuliani. But look at the judge that he's putting his fate in the hands of. A judge who's already found him. I've been doing this a long time. I never got a default judgment because of my client's conduct. She's already defaulted him and told the jury to assume that's a bad guy that's keeping information away from you. She still has that information in her head. She's still if she's going to be the trier of fact on the issue, it's a terrible trier of fact for him. But he cited some case law that says that if you have a default judgment entered against you, that the other side is not entitled to a jury trial on the issue of damages. It should rather be a hearing in front of the judge. Now, I've read some of the cases. I think he's misinterpreted this line of cases, and that Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman are entitled to have a jury of their peers and a jury of his peers make this decision. But you can see what they're afraid of. Rudy's afraid that because he's been listed on the witness list as a mandatory witness for Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, chef's kiss to the lawyers for them, for saying, we're going to put Rudy on the stand to say out loud in front of the jury the things that he accused our clients of that have already been found to be defamatory. So he's listed on their witness list. And he's afraid that if he testifies, we've seen him in podcasts. We know that's terrible. We can't imagine he's not going to clean up his act in time, even under the firm hand of a trial lawyer like Joe Sibley. He's not going to do well in front of that jury. And none of them are going to look like Rudy Giuliani. Let's just leave it at that. It's not going to be a lot of MAGA red hat wearing people sitting in that jury box. So they're trying to throw themselves in the mercy of the trial judge. I just don't think that they're right on the law and that she will ultimately find, and we'll see what the lawyers for Freeman and Moss file in opposition, and then we'll have the decision. But this is how low Rudy Giuliani has sunk. He'd rather put his hands his fate in the hands of a judge who obviously believes he's a liar, that he's as an officer of a court, that she's been lied to by an officer of the court and been misled. He'd rather have that judge decide it than 12 random people picked from a jury pool and put in a box of 12 to decide his fate. We'll continue to follow everything that happens to Rudy Giuliani because it's important to democracy. They can't get away with it. We do it one place on the MeidasTouch network. We don't blow smoke or sunshine. Speaking of sunshine. And we do it. Also, I do it on a podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice that we curate called Legal AF. It's on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow my hot takes in only one place, the MeidasTouch Network. And you give me a thumbs up. It helps with the ratings. It helps keep us on the air. Until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.